Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome back to the Football House Week 5 of the 2023 season. I'm Sam Basil, joined alongside Jake Zimmer, Will Tondo, Mike Gilligan. And fellas, we got a lot to talk about. It was a pretty crazy week. The Colorado Buffaloes stopped in their tracks hard by Oregon. Notre Dame and Ohio State playing a thriller. Alabama getting back into the winning spirit against Ole Miss. And just as it concluded, I mean, we've got a great week 5 coming up, and we're going to get into all of that, all of our picks. But first, I want to know how you guys are doing, and let's break down our most recent Football House Top 25. So we're going to bring that up right here. Not a lot of movement in the top 8. In fact, none of the top 8 teams in our top 25 poll have moved an inch. Our projected playoff standings are exactly the same. Not a lot of movement up top. Some movement down below. Tennessee continuing to drop. Ole Miss taking a dip. Colorado moving down a little bit. So first impressions of the post week 4 top 25.
I think off the rip, Florida, there are plenty of teams that I look at and say that this could have shook out differently, right? And I think none more than Florida State. On my card with a money line win over Clemson, that could have been very different had they not made a couple different plays throughout that one. 31-24 final. I don't know. Is that a sneaky backdoor cover there? Was the line not too big?
No, I don't think so. I think you're right. I think that was a sneaky cover there.
Yeah, so Florida State very easily could have fallen out of the top 10 after that one. Maybe Clemson could have been back in here. I think this is for the top couple of teams, a pretty dominant week, but, clearing out the middle here could have gone a few different ways. And then obviously feel for Notre Dame, who, they lost a tremendous football game on the last play, essentially. Those are the two big takeaways from last week.
I think we definitely have to get some more voters in the pool because I don't know if Texas should or should not be at least in the conversation for the top 4. I mean, looking at the AP top 25, I love USC and I think they're I think they're better than Washington in the Pac-12. I think the Pac-12 is also just very strong. They're currently tagged at 8 right now in the AP top 25, and we have them at 4. Ohio State, I also was, I thought they've been a little weak lately. And again, winning against Notre Dame in an exciting fashion definitely kept them at least deserving. But Ohio State is still not doing it for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. One thing that you mentioned that you brought up in that, talking about getting some more opinions in this poll, throughout the entire season, I tally these polls every Saturday night and Sunday morning before they come out on houseenterprise.com/the-blog, which you guys should be checking out every day. I tally these every single week, and I'm putting Georgia up at the top. Everyone has put Georgia up at the top every single poll every single week. And one thing I noticed that was interesting is that this week in the AP top 25 and the AFCA coaches poll, there's a bit more. There's a bit less consensus when it comes to the number 1 team in the country. If you look at the voting breakdown, Georgia is still overwhelmingly getting the most first place votes in the AP top 25. They've got 55 votes. In the coaches poll, they've got 61. But as you move down, there are a lot of teams that are getting 1, 2, maybe even 3 first place votes. In the AP poll, Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, Florida State, and Washington all have votes as the number 1 team in the country. And in the coaches poll, it's Georgia, Ohio State, and Washington. So I think it's a mix of Georgia not really doing much to impress us and a mix of people just getting tired of voting, maybe feeling obligated to vote them as number 1. But, I mean, as we go through the season heading into week 5, do you guys feel like you're voting Georgia as number 1 out of almost obligation?
So I do think that they've had a cakewalk schedule. I mean, they have had a cakewalk schedule. And just like looking back at it, they only beat South Carolina 2 weeks ago by 10 points, which was definitely should have probably lowered them so far. I guess in my opinion, I mean, when was the last time Georgia lost? I'm trying to pull up. Was it the SEC championship game in 2021?
I believe so, yes.
So it's like, I guess in that standpoint, it's like, all right, champion, haven't lost in so many years. It kind of goes back to those Alabama days where it's like Alabama could be a 2-loss team and still somehow be a top 4 team in the AP 25 poll. I just feel that it's like it's Georgia's throne to lose, and unless they win by 3 points in a close game or obviously lose one, they're probably stuck there for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and just to confirm that Alabama in the 2021 SEC championship game was their last loss. They lost 41-24, and then obviously went on to beat Alabama in the 2021-22 national championship.
Good call. Good call on that memory.
Yeah, it's been a while. Well, I think it's another one of those things, right, where it kind of just shows, as much as I think these top 25 polls in the style that we do them, in the style that the AP and the Coaches Association does them, I think they're effective, but it also shows, just the fault of them and why it's good to have, a diverse pool of polls, matrices. I'm a big fan of the Colley matrix, but I don't know if you guys look at any other ones. But look, it's still a long season. Georgia still has plenty of time to either prove to us why they deserve to still be number one, or they might have some time to mess up and give that opportunity to somebody else. But let's get into our cards.
Yeah, they're just off that. We're going to go to our cards, but I think it's a good segue, right? It's like I think this is the first time that Georgia was really tested. I think the Gamecocks are pretty good, but do I think they're, this elite football team? Not necessarily. Meanwhile, you look at Auburn, who's on the cusp of if they win another game, if they had won this week, let's play this out, and they had beat, really any respectable team, they'd be in the top 25, right? Mm-hmm. Auburn's off to a real good start. So I think this is a good football team this year. The rest of the way out, I mean, there's only 2 games on the Georgia schedule that are duds. It's Vandy and Georgia Tech. The rest of these football teams at the moment are ranked, with the exception of Kentucky, who's still a good program this year. I think these next few weeks are going to be pretty pivotal for Georgia to figure out, all right, are they in fraud land, right? Do we have to reconsider our number 1 ranking or what happens? And then depending on who they lose to, if they do they fall out of the top 4 entirely? That's another consideration we'll have to make.
Absolutely. Kentucky, by the way, a team, if you look at the bottom of our poll, receiving some votes, currently 4-0, could be a sneaky contender in this year's SEC. And maybe they're on some of your guys' cards this week. So let's get into those cards. Starting off with you, Gilly. I know you've been having a pretty good season so far. I like some of the picks on your cards. It looks like you're sharing a lot with the rest of us tonight. So would you want to break it down, starting off with your locks of the week, and then your regular picks, and then hold off on game of the week?
Sounds good. Okay, so starting from the top there, in terms of my lock of the week, I haven't really gone to the well on this much this year. This has been a play in the past that I've loved. With typically, to be honest, it was Bama that I've rode this with a bunch in the past. I'm going first half Michigan -8.5. Obviously, I think that Michigan is well above head and shoulders Nebraska. I think Nebraska too. They just struggle in the first half. I think they even was it Louisiana Tech or Louisiana A&M that they played last week that they struggled with, where it was like, I think it was 7-7 at least through a quarter. I think that Michigan's going to play a big boy football and just blow them out. 17 points though on the full game makes me a little nervous. You never know if they're going to try to kind of lighten up on the back end there and just, I don't know, cash out on the win and not really worry about covering there. So that's where I've got the first half, and then I'll feel better when that cashes within 30 minutes of gameplay there. Then I do kind of go talking to what we were just talking about with Georgia. I do like Georgia -14 against Auburn. I think that that's an interesting line. We were talking about it a little bit before. I feel like it should be a little bit steeper than that. So that's where I just think that's good value where that is. Another one that's kind of similar, the next on my card, is Mizzou, minus 13.5. I don't really respect Vandy, as rude as that sounds. And so I'm riding with Mizzou. I don't think that they're an exceptional football team, but at the same time, I'm on board for now. Then I do have Utah money line. I don't quite understand. I guess I know home field is a factor there in that line against it's Oregon State, right? But at the same time, I think Utah, that's a team that I almost would say when we're talking about the rankings there, might deserve a little bit more respect by not only the AP voters, but maybe us as well. I think we had them at 11, I think it was. The real you. Yeah, go Utes.
Wow.
So I just think they're frisky though. They're interesting and they're so good. And they're almost like a BYU type though, where they flirt with this every year and then they're gonna lose a game that they shouldn't, and then they're like, okay, they're in the top 25, but not the contender that we think they could be. Moving right along, I do have Washington minus 19. I think Washington's a really good team too. Again, we know the Pac-12 is loaded, and Michael Penix, I think they're going to run up the score. That's part of the reason why I love those. And actually, I see the line is at 18.5 now, so I like that even more. Then I do have Texas, Kansas under 61.5. I went with a Texas under last week that I believe hit. And I'm willing to do that again. I just don't think they're the team that's going to run up the score necessarily. And I don't think Kansas is going to put up a ton of points against Texas. USC, Colorado, under 71.5. I don't love this play, I'll be honest with you. That number was just too high, and I just had to put it on there. It just freaked me out. Just like, ooh, I've been on the USC overtrain for a while. But Colorado, I think the wheels might come off a little bit. And actually, the under hit last week for their game, Colorado, Oregon, because I believe I had the over of that, and that was a little disappointing. So that's part of my logic there. Oklahoma, I believe I have that on my card. I'm sorry. I don't have the line there. Pardon me for a moment. Yeah, Oklahoma minus 10.5. Sorry, I must have deleted that off.
Gilly, I love everything about that Oklahoma bet too, which we'll get
I was going to
there.
say, if you had that on your card for the full game, I do like that. I am a coward, and that's why I did the first half. So I'm going with that for now. And then I do have Penn State minus 14.5 for the first half, minus 27 for the full game. It's just a little too steep for me. I think they can do that, and they probably will. But again, just not a long sweat would be nice. And then lastly, I do have one team total, which I like to go with, and it is Michigan over 27.5. That Nebraska team. I think that they're still finding themselves. I think Michigan clears that pretty easily, but probably not by a lot, right? This isn't a Michigan team that I expect to put up 60 plus unless they really feel like it. So I feel like this could be an ugly, weird, like 42-7 game or something along those lines. So yeah. And so I'll say my game of the week.
With that Michigan game, if I'm not mistaken, Harbaugh's back.
He was back last week, right?
Oh, he was. Oh, no,
he was back last week.
Yeah, I wasn't
super under the radar though. Like I was talking to Gilly last week when we were together, and it was I forgot what he even got suspended for, but I guess it was self-imposed by the school, which is really weird.
I thought it was 4 games, not 3.
I thought so too.
I did remember. I'm pretty sure his dad coached a game, or he broke it out. They had a graphic of they had 6 different coaches, doing first half and second half, just to show exposure, which I like the move. And I'm pretty sure his dad or his uncle coached a game. Whatever that means.
Going back to that Utah pick, something I wanted to highlight, like you said, Gilly, about the Pac-12 being so stacked. Not only are the teams fantastic. I mean, look, we've had USC in our top 4, 5, 6 range all year. Washington is getting first place votes. And then if you look at just the personnel that these teams are putting out on the field, I mean, look, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Nate Johnson, Bo Nix. I mean, those 4 guys alone. I don't know if a sports book is doing this kind of bet, but would you be willing to take a bet, not even picking a specific name for Heisman futures, but just taking the Pac-12 versus the field when it comes to a Heisman favorite this year? Or do you think they're going to kind of eat each other alive a little bit here?
That's a fun idea. No, I do kind of like that personally, because that's a strong top 3 or 4. And then even think of it too, of the value that you'd get with, and I know Colorado is coming off a loss, and the magic feels like it's wearing off a little bit, but Shedeur Sanders, as well as, I know DJ Ukulele is not really in conversation right now, but he's fun, he's frisky. If he pulled off a crazy season and Oregon State was a top 5 team to finish the season, I don't think that's out of the question. So I kind of do like that, because a lot of these Big Ten teams are just really well-rounded, whereas it's really quarterback heavy in the Pac-12. So no, tell you what, if Sportsbook wants to do it, DraftKings, I hope you're listening, let us know. We're down. I'm down at least. Take my money.
That's one of those things that, like, I really liked DJ Uiagalelei last year, but he just sucked. Like, he had like his Cody Bellinger year, basically, where he would just, everyone lost faith in him after a huge year, kind of falls off, and then you go, oh, he's having a really good year with the Cubs, right? Well, this is Uiagalelei's Bellinger reprise season. It's like, oh shit, he's at Oregon State, a team that no one thought he'd be at, and they're actually good. Maybe they make some noise, maybe they don't. He's playing with house money because everyone's out on him anyway, so he seems to be like more loose. I've got a lot of respect for this kid. He swallowed his pride at a top tier ACC school, moved to Oregon State, and he's balling out, right? I do think Michael Penix and guys like that have the edge on him, but it's going to be super interesting to see how he ends up.
Yeah, think about if Travis Hunter too was healthy. Yeah. I mean, he might still be in the conversation if he comes back at a reasonable time this year. I mean, it's unreal. I always feel like, and I just think it's so interesting because I even in years where the SEC is so strong, the Big Ten is so strong, the Heisman shortlist is always pretty varied when it comes to conference. I always feel like it's kind of like an SEC guy, a Big Ten guy, and then maybe like an independent, and then someone from a school that is like really not that great, but they're the person
put up crazy stats
anywhere.
At Oklahoma or something like that. Yeah.
It sucks that the Pac-12 is a year too late on this buzz. Yeah. And maybe it's like 50 years too late because, they had their chance to, make something. But I mean, seeing this conference on where it is today. Now, again, someone's got to make the college football playoffs to make some noise. But next season, when we have an expanded field, it would have been, holy crap. You look at, the teams that could have been playing, a USC, an Oregon, a Washington, it would have been really exciting. So it sucks that they're now breaking apart, and what that means for the rest of college football next year, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. Tondo, you're our top dog this season. Would you want to break down your card a little bit?
I will. Yes. Another week that was near perfect. I had a push, which was unfortunate, but we are, almost 20 games over 500. So I'm itching to make some more money. So my lock of the week, I do have Michigan minus 17 versus Nebraska. I just don't think Nebraska is a very good football team. So, I really do like the points on that. I want to take the money line, but I have the spread with Utah plus 3.5 versus Oregon State. I'm a big Utes fan, and I do think they're playing some fun football right now, but I will take the spread, hoping for the money line, but that's not going to be on my card. I have Texas money line, but Kansas covering the spread in that matchup. Jury's still out if Texas is back. Got to see them live, and they almost blew an egg to Wyoming 2 weeks ago. They came back strong against Baylor, but Baylor's not the same team that we once knew and loved. So I do think Texas wins it, but Kansas has been playing some great football right now to cover over two touchdowns. I like LSU minus 2.5 versus Ole Miss. I love Syracuse plus 6.5 versus Clemson. And I'm doing a double under parlay, which is the USC Colorado and the TCU West Virginia, 73.5 and 52 respectively.
I like that. And I think that's our first parlay of the season.
Are we having FCS right now?
Yeah, give me.
I don't have a number on it. Whatever the number is, lock me in. Rutgers versus Wagner. Whatever it is.
I like that.
Points, I don't care. Rutgers.
Does that count? That's an FBS team.
Yeah.
But Wagner's FCS.
I know. I guess it does count.
That's a game.
That's fine.
It's
yeah.
FCS lock, and my lock is they will not cover the spread against Rutgers.
I'll count it with a little.
We've done
with a
that
little
for
bit of a
years.
shifty look.
We've
I
done
know.
that for
I just
years.
don't like doing it. I think it's, whatever.
I hope it's 50 points. I hope it's 50 points.
Spoiler alert: I do have Rutgers on my card, but
Oh,
not
Do you have the
not
spread?
not as my FCS lock of the week. I do not have the spread. I could not find the spread, but I feel
I
like
was going to say we can't. We might need to outlaw anyone taking a money line on Rutgers Wagner.
No money line spread. That's
I
what I
know.
said.
That's what I'm
Spread.
saying. If there was anyone that came in and said, "Yeah, I'll take I'll
Add
take
that to my card. Yeah, you know what? Add that to my card.
Rutgers money
Minus 5,000.
That's how I can just get back into the game here. I'll just take whoever.
You
Wagner
threw a lot of money lines last week, which were questionable.
Hey, they were not. But everybody was on here, right? Cole was on here. Basil was on here. I pushed it for sure. I pushed it a little bit.
There's just some bullshit Survivor League play. Like, oh yeah, I'll take the Chiefs. Like,
would have been out
like,
first
yeah,
week.
that's a
Chiefs
W.
this year.
$100 bet to win $8.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? That gets you something good. All right, Jake. What's on your card? A lot of money lines this week?
And you'll be happy to know there's
risky?
actually. I just looked. There's no money lines this week. Well, actually, there's one, and it's the lock. And I'll start with that. It's LSU over Ole Miss, right? I think that one's interesting. I think it looks like LSU's laying 2. I can see this being real close, but I think LSU pulls this out. Ole Miss, really interesting football team. I think, what was the score against Alabama last week? It was something close, if I recall.
It was like 24-13.
Yeah. So, I mean, they hung in it. I think LSU is sort of getting their bearings back. And this will be a statement game for both of them, right? I think this means that one of them is in the discussion for the rest of the year and the other's not, as simple as that is, right? Like, LSU with their huge loss at the beginning of the year, Ole Miss with their loss to Alabama. One of these is going to walk away with 2 losses, and I think you can just write them off after that. So, big game. I think LSU is the better football team. I think they come away with it. I'll go FCS. I do have – this is my other money line. It's South Dakota State over North Dakota, which is weird because on Cole Hughes' card, he's got North Dakota State over South Dakota. So the 2 teams – or the 4 teams in those 2 states are playing each other. All of them are ranked except South Dakota. South Dakota State's the number 1 team. North Dakota is number 12. This should be another really good game. All these Dakota states have really awesome football rivalries, which I think is really cool.
And they all play in the same conference.
They do, yes. Yeah. So SDSU over the the Jackrabbits over North Dakota. The rest of it, some picks that have already been said. I like Georgia minus 14 over Auburn. I like Mizzou minus 13 over Vandy. Utah's getting +3 for me over Oregon State. I for some reason the money line scares me a little bit. I feel like Oregon State could pull something out because I really like DJ Uiagalelei, but I think Utah covers that. I've been riding Oklahoma. I'm going to take a -20 over Iowa State. Love what they've been putting together this year. To Gilly's point, I think I may actually separately off this card add the first half total because I think that's that's almost a no-brainer. They've been dominant in first halves lately. And I'm going to keep betting Washington as well. -19 over Arizona. I love Michael Penix and what he's putting together. Great year. It's been pretty well documented on the show. And then Memphis -3 over Boise State's another one. Like the product Memphis is putting together this year. They've got a test in Boise State. I think Memphis do they get some national discussion after a win like this? Potentially. Their start to the year is pretty good. And I think this is a big game for them. So I'm taking Memphis. It's not on the blue turf as well. It's on Memphis's turf. So no Boise State home field advantage here. And that's a card.
Nice. I like that card. That's a solid card you got there. I like you mentioning riding Oklahoma throughout the season. One thing I kind of wanted to talk about when we're talking about, we've been talking about conference realignment like every single week. It's been the dominating topic for us, just for college sports, college football in general around the country. And obviously, the poster child for this topic is obviously the dissolution of the Pac-12 or whatever it may be with these last two teams holding out. But one that I feel like people have kind of underwritten in terms of importance is Oklahoma and Texas on their way to the SEC. I feel like we haven't really touched upon it that much. The Big 12 obviously has had a lot of teams come in this season. Cincinnati, Houston, big examples of that. They've got a couple more as a result of the fallout of the Pac-12, but they are losing two of their most storied franchises. Well, not franchises, I don't want to say storied programs in Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, not only are you losing these two programs, you're losing probably the biggest rivalry. Maybe aside from Oklahoma State, but you're losing them to the SEC. How does that shift the dynamic in this conference? Like, who comes out in the Big 12 as the top dog after these two teams leave? Is it TCU's conference to lose for the next couple of years after that?
I mean, I would think so. You got to think TCU puts it back together. Their recruiting story is really good. It's one of, hey, you can go play in a national championship. Does someone like a Baylor emerge, sort of a perennial program that's teetering on that success? I would like to see Oklahoma State get their shit together personally. Another football-rich school that has sort of just fallen by the wayside these past couple of years. I don't even know what their record is, but they've just rolled over. I don't know. I don't know who comes out, but I think there's opportunity. It's to be had. And then who knows if someone like a Houston comes out of there too? Could they be a candidate to? I think they have a really nice story as well. They've got top tier athletic programs or basketball programs consistently number one in the nation. Who says no that they can't have a football program that competes on the national stage? Those are my two takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm similar with that. I mean, if Texas is leaving, you have to have two Texas teams make a comeback, and Baylor and Texas Tech. I mean, not to say Texas Tech was anything ever special, but if you're going to keep riding off that Mahomes was your alumni, you better do something to find the next Mahomes. And they haven't done much. And I mean, you have teams like UCF and Cincinnati who have been talented over the years. I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before, but the Bearcats were, on the outside looking in. Then UCF also was the best team in the country, as their banner says.
Yeah, they were national champs.
They were national champs, which,
Scott Frost, shout out to him.
That's a team, UCF, if there was an expanded field, how far they would have went. It's just one of those big what-ifs in football. But I mean, does West Virginia ever come back and do something? I mean, they've been kind of irrelevant for a while. And we never really mentioned Kansas State either. Kansas State was a team that,
reigning conference champs.
Yeah, laid an egg last year. So
shout out to Utah as well. That's another team. Again, we basically listed the entire the Big 12 for years.
The entire conference can win.
Who's coming into the Big 12?
Utah.
We know Utah. Is Oregon going?
No. Oregon's going to the Big 10.
Oh shit!
All right. So here's who's coming out of the Pac-12. This is all their future members. They're all coming out of the Pac-12. Arizona State, Boulder, UC Boulder, obviously, and Utah. So look, not only getting Utah, but now you're getting Coach Prime in a couple of years. The return.
Who knows? Yeah, maybe it's the answer was staring us in the face. It's Coach Prime, baby. That's a loaded conference at that point.
Yeah.
Well,
huge
conference. I am curious what happens with Colorado if what happens next year on who stays, who might get NFL buzz. And there was also that, I mean, I saw the video that came out about, I forgot his name, but he's a 5-star cornerback opposite of Travis. Well, he rarely plays, but Coach Prime was pretty much just saying like, oh, why isn't he seeing a lot of play time? And it's like, not enough practice, shows up late to meetings. And he's like, I'm not just saying it about him. I'm just saying like people aren't going to see the field if they see that. Like it's someone who was a 5-star prospect, going to transfer out after that. I mean, my thing is like, if Coach Prime is your coach, you got to go in and impress him. Like this guy is a Hall of Famer. He is a workhorse. He expects greatness. What are you just going to come in and be like, yeah, I was good once, so like I'm just going to start here? Like that, you just know the way he operates, it's not going to roll. But does that deter people? And like if they go somewhere else, I don't know. But I guess, the big thing is if his son and then, Hunter decide to stay. But, we're only in not even October yet. So a lot of season to tell.
That's super interesting. I just looked that up. It's a dude named Cormani McLean, 5-star freshman quarterback. I did not see this before you said it. And he flat out said like he's unprepared. The quote was, "You'd be a fool to put somebody out there and they're unprepared. Can't do it, won't do it, can't do it." That's loaded.
Yeah.
Talk that about your guy, to say those words and be like, yeah, it's 5 stars. Just he's not like, I'm not putting him on the field. He's not going to help us win a game. That's a pretty damning endorsement there.
Yeah, that's a tough evaluation. But yeah, I mean, who knows? We've really had to see how Coach Prime maintains this pipeline. So I think how it transitions over to the Big 12 is going to be really telling. I guess with that, we'll get into my card. I'll start off with my locks. My FBS lock of the week is Louisville -3. Louisville is my favorite Friday night football program to watch in all of college football. I really like how, in the same way that the MAC is kind of, which we haven't seen any Wednesday night action this year, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, they try to take over Wednesday night. Thursday, I always feel like I'm always seeing a school in like the American playing, or like a Memphis or a Georgia State. And I feel like Louisville is just the kings of that Friday night 7 p.m. time slot. And I think they'll do just as well again. So I'm going to take them at -3. My FCS lock, I think this is one that you took last week or 2 weeks ago, Jake, and that's William and Mary, their money line. Tondo, I'm riding with you, not for my locks of the week, but just on my regular card. Rutgers money line. I feel like Rutgers money line, has kind of become a meme on TikTok. And I just think it's really fun. And look, they've had some pretty good games. I mean, even in losses, they've shown potential. So I'm going to take them over Wagner.
Money line?
I've got money line. They didn't put a spread. They didn't put a spread. I'll take whatever the spread ends up being, but I don't really think they'll put one. Books are really apprehensive.
All right, I will say I did a very similar thing with Miami and Bethune-Cookman a few weeks ago. I said, I'll take whatever spread it is, but there just was none.
I'll set the line right now for everybody, -30.
I don't know.
Hammer.
Thank you.
There you go.
Fine. I should add that too if it's -30.
according to the book of Tondo, it's -30. So I'll take that. Wyoming -14. I like that one. Air Force -9.5. I'm taking Florida +1 over Kentucky. I like the Gators' momentum here. I think Kentucky's getting the points because they're at home and they are undefeated. But I mean, Florida has gone toe-to-toe with some big dogs this season. So I really like them, and that is my card. Let's get into Game of the Week. For the second week in a row, although in a different location, Game of the Week is moving from South Bend all the way down to Durham, North Carolina, where Notre Dame, who just came off a very tough loss to Ohio State, are taking on a surging Duke Blue Devils program. I don't know how to feel about this one. I really want to ride with Notre Dame, but I feel like people really want to give some credit to Duke. They deserve the credit. I mean, they've really come out of nowhere in the ACC this year, and what's going to be a very contentious ACC with their normal basketball rival, North Carolina, hot on their heels around the top 25. But I think Notre Dame, after that loss to Ohio State, they're hungry. They understood that the loss came from some strange mistakes that they made. I mean, leaving 10 men on the field, in the last couple plays, just giving up a last minute touchdown to Ohio State. I think they're gonna kind of take that one on the shoulder and come out strong against Duke. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this game?
I don't think you could have described my feelings better. to be honest. Like, that's exactly how I feel about this game. Watching the end of that Notre Dame game on Saturday night, it was just painful. Like, you just saw Ohio State going down the field. You knew damn well what was coming. And it sucks because, Notre Dame actually played a really good football game, I thought. I think whoever picked Notre Dame to at least cover won, they won that pick because it's plus 3.5. So they cover that, but that's a gut-wrenching loss for ND. So I think they come out, their offensive line holds off a Duke front that I don't know much about, but they can't be that great. I mean, yeah, they played UConn last week, so whatever. I don't know. Duke wins this game, though. They're in the top 25 for me the next week, easily. Well, actually, higher up the top 25, I should say. Maybe in that 15 bracket. Who knows?
So you're saying if they lose, they're out for you?
What? Notre Dame?
No, Duke.
Oh, I don't think if they lose, they're out. I misspoke about the, like, they're going in the top 25 because they're already in there.
Yeah.
No, look, if they lose by, we'll see how that goes, right? If they lose by, I don't know, just to throw a number on it, like they lose by a couple touchdowns or more, they'll fall pretty significantly depending on what else happens, right? And a very weird bottom half of the poll this week. So,
well, one more follow-up question to that. Right now, they're ranked 22nd in our polls. So if they beat Notre Dame, whether it be by a lot or just maybe a last-minute field goal, do you think a win for them? Kind of bring back to our tiers conversation from earlier in the season. Would you kind of shift their focus onto maybe being a New Year's Six hopeful team?
Oh man, I don't know. New Year's Six is tough, but I think they could certainly be playing for a marquee bowl, right? You put them in like the Utah bracket, the Utah Oregon
State Bowl,
Washington State bracket, like that kind of stuff. Maybe like a Sugar Bowl or something. I don't know what's on the New Year's this year. Maybe they should bring back the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl and put it in like they might actually still be playing the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl.
No, the Fiesta Bowl is a New Year's Six bowl.
That is a New Year's Six bowl now. Damn.
Yeah, the New Year's Six bowl always stays the same. It's the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Peach Bowl, and the Fiesta Bowl.
That's right, the Fiesta Bowl. I always forget that. Damn.
The Fiesta Bowl's been around a lot longer than a lot of people think. I think because it's got the Tostitos branding, people don't really take it seriously. And it's like I feel like people really judge a bowl game by their name, but like sometimes they're really important.
Yeah, like the Pop-Tarts Bowl. That's
exactly like the Pop-Tarts
Orlando
bowl.
Needs that.
What else does Orlando have? I don't know. I think my point is like Duke, if they're at 22 now, their ceiling if they win that game by any amount could be up to as high as 10. I think for me.
Absolutely, I like that. So what's your
real test for? I was gonna say the real test for them though is this game is obviously big. If they win this, New York Six hopeful. You have Florida State in 2 weeks. You win that, you're in.
Absolutely. So, what's your pick against the spread here, guys? Starting off with you, Gilly.
So I just edited my card a little bit because I had the over. I'm getting cold feet on it. I'm going with the spread pick. I'm going Notre Dame minus 5.5. So I'm glad that moved a little bit. I think I saw it -6 initially, so it's moving in that direction, which I don't know if I should be happy or sad about. But yeah, I just think Notre Dame's. They need a bounce back here. I know we just talked about Duke and how we set the stage of how they could kind of make some noise. I just don't see it. Call me a hater if you want, but I don't know. I don't know enough. I have not watched enough Duke. I don't think Clemson is that great. So I know that that's their marquee win of the season so far. I just feel like at the end of the season, we're not going to be looking back on that win as the huge W that we kind of see it as this early in the season. So yeah, team total, Notre Dame, over 29.5 because I do like them to score some points. Sam Hartman being a Heisman hopeful, I think that's just a given that they're going to run up the score a little bit, try to give him some stats, and then Notre Dame minus 5.5.
I've never seen someone be so nervous about half a point within a one touchdown spread. That's very interesting. Is there anything specifically? Is it like that? Is it mainly that uncertainty with Duke, or is there something in Notre Dame's game that you're a little nervous about?
Well, so I mean, it makes me feel a little bit better, but that just makes me wonder what's making that line move, right? Because it's just a weird game to me. I feel like the line, if you told me, to be honest with you, that the line was going to be Notre Dame minus 10.5, I would believe that coming into this week. So that's where the line seemed fishy to me to jump. And so now all of a sudden it's kind of sliding in that direction. I'm a little concerned, but at the same time, I think Notre Dame was legit. Although, again, that could be a sucker's thing to say, and this could be the year of Duke football where they're in the New Year's Six, like you guys were just talking about. So, yeah, I guess I'm just get cold feet easy. So that's why I'm touch and go on the gas pedal there.
Fair. Got to play it safe when you're as high as you are in the standings. Tondo, what you got for us?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to take Notre Dame with the points, but this is a game that Notre Dame should win. They should avenge their loss from last week, but I don't think it's going to be a belly up. Like, I do think Duke does put up a fight, but if anything, they're not going to, how do I put it? Like, the game last week, it was what, a 3-point game that they lost by, at the end for Notre Dame. They have to win by a touchdown. They cannot do back-to-back 3-point game wins or losses. So I'll take the -6 there.
So do you think that, if we're talking in poll terms right now, would a double-digit would a field goal win, or anything in the 3-point to 5-point range, could that even cause them to kind of close the gap with Duke a little bit? Could they drop in the polls a little bit because it just doesn't seem like an impressive enough win for you?
I think Notre Dame stays, but I think they actually both stay if it's just a 3-point. I don't think there's much movement. And I guess heading back to because it's like, okay, going around the room, all the teams above Notre Dame have pretty much either stagnant talent or they're playing someone decent, right? Like Alabama's playing. Who's Alabama playing?
I actually don't know. Somebody crappy?
Mississippi State.
Oh, yeah.
So Alabama won't move any much even with a win. Yeah, if Notre Dame wants to crack the top 10, they're going to have to, at least win by 2 touchdowns against Duke.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you probably need like an LSU to like also lose, drop down, and then maybe even Utah, right? If Utah, I feel like that clears things out a little bit in terms of that, I don't know, 8 to 12 range, depending on where you rank those teams.
Absolutely. All right, Jake, what you got for us?
This is weird. I'm with everybody else. Notre Dame with the points here. This is just an influx of data is really creeping me out, right? Notre Dame 9-0 against the spread in the last 9 against ACC teams. Duke 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 at home, right? So it's like something has to give. And Duke is 7-1 against the spread in the last 8. So these teams do really well against their spreads. I'm just going with my gut here. I think Notre Dame, there's no way in hell they're going to lose off a loss or, lose a game coming off the loss that they did too. So give me Notre Dame and the points. I'm going to take the over as well.
Absolutely. I'm taking Notre Dame on the points here. Just going to keep it short and simple. I like when we all ride it together. I think it's more fun that way. So yeah, again, I don't want to repeat too much that you guys already said, but yeah, I mean, Notre Dame coming off this loss to Ohio State, I think they need something. I think they might be just outside of the college football playoff conversation at this point. I think this loss to Ohio State, who is already on shaky ground in the national conversation, losing to them off of a mistake like the one that they did, kind of takes them out of it. I think they need to, still challenge for a New Year's Six bowl, and I think a win against Duke kind of. It's a good narrative win because I feel like by shutting down, a kind of a scrappy up and comer, you can kind of cement your place, where you are in the season. So I'm going to go Notre Dame -6 here as well. I'm not going.
We've also all got to reduce our -6s to -5.5 because we're riding with Gilly now. Gilly's been shopping around. He finds
DraftKings.
all our 6s become 5.5. So let's make that executive decision for everybody.
All right, we're locking that in. A group pick of Notre Dame -5.5 over Duke. So I think that wraps up most of our cards.
Is Gracie and Cole with us on that? Because they have to be. Cole was with us. Gracie had Notre Dame money line. Yeah, we're all riding it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go. Are there any other games this week that kind of pique your interest?
I did want to add one little note that makes me feel even better about one of my picks that I was a little wishy-washy on. That was USC Colorado, the under of that game. I did not realize this. However, I believe that game's start time is 10 a.m. local time. So I love that even more. A little sleepy start is usually a good way to hit an under. So I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, 12 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, and that's in Colorado. Is Boulder Pacific time, or is that Mountain
Boulder
West?
is Mountain
time.
It's Mountain time. Okay, so so 10 a.m. time. Yeah. All right. Cool. That's my final note there.
Don't you just look at that and like kind of thank yourself that you live on the East Coast, or is that just me? I just feel like 10 a.m. is soccer time, and no football should start till noon in my brain.
No, you're right, because then you can't really watch game day. That's the other aspect where it's like even if you wake up to watch football, it's like boom, oh shoot, you can't put any bets in. Everything's already started, which I'm already bad about that sometimes. If I want to add a play, oh no, it's 12 o'clock already. I missed it. So that's an East Coast privilege. Maybe I need to move to England to really give myself a chance.
Absolutely. So you'll be watching football till like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
All right. I think that I
got a sleeper one as well, Basil. Just to answer your question, I think I want to briefly mention Texas, Kansas. Texas is favored by 16.5. I wanted to stay away from this because I really don't know what's going on here. I know this was on Gilly's card for the under, but this is make or break for Kansas here, right? This will probably be in a loaded Big 12 schedule again, the closest that they'll get to. They're 24 in the AP top 25. They're not. They're 23 on ours actually. If they don't win this one, who knows if they're going to sniff the poll again. So another big game in Austin this week.
Does anybody want to take Georgia State -1 on Troy at home? I feel like that's a pretty easy one, but I mean they did get. I don't think they got any traction in the AP poll, but they got at least one vote in the coaches poll. They're 4-0 right now.
Their closest game was against URI too. That's what's the most perplexing part of that Georgia State team to me. As URI alum who doesn't believe in the football team.
Speaking of Rhode Island football, the Rhode Island Derby is this week. I know I don't know if Tondo they were on your card last week, but Bryant came out with a massive win. They covered an 11.5-point spread, and they beat the Princeton Tigers.
Had them straight up money line. Straight up money line.
Fantastic. But the Rhode Island Derby, Bryant against the Rhode Island Rams, a future CAA football feud. That's going to be fun. Sold out already in Kingston, apparently.
Wow.
And Gilly, we missed Rhode Island versus Villanova on Saturday. We were right there.
Wow.
Oh, shoot, you're right.
Yep.
They just do it differently. It just means more in the state of Rhode Island. But I think that'll do it for this week's show. Great job, guys. Make sure you follow us on House Enterprise on Twitter. Make sure you check out house-enterprise.com/theblog for updates on the Football House show coming to you every Wednesday or Thursday. Everything else we're talking about in the college football world, including our top 25, which releases every Sunday. Make sure you check out our NFL coverage, once again, on house-enterprise/theblog. And college basketball season is just around the corner, so make sure you're following the House of College Hoops on Twitter. And until then, we'll see you guys next time.